All right, you guys, I hate to sound like a dramatic psycho, but this is truly one of the most important things you will learn all year. So please pay attention today. When you are done with your notes on rhetorical appeals, I want you to start studying the rhetorical devices. I'll explain the difference between those here as we get going, okay? But again, these are things you just need to know. You are not going to be done with this sophomore year. These are skills that you are going to transfer to junior year and senior year. And guess what? College, okay? Here we go. Rhetoric. So rhetoric is just using words for a purpose. So it's the power to see the possible ways of persuading people about a given subject. This is important because it allows you to write strong arguments of your own. So if you only relied on one appeal, your argument would not be very strong. However, to have a really good persuasive argument, you want to be using all three of these. It also allows you to be a good audience member and a good listener and to examine how strong someone else's argument is. So you are not just falling for anything, right? You don't want to be the person watching like all those political campaigns right now and falling for every single one. Don't let that be you, okay? So there are three appeals, three rhetorical appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos, okay? The first one is logos. It's what it sounds like. Logos, logic. It's a logical argument. So whenever you're looking for logos, think stats, think numbers, think legitimate comparison. So if you have a cause and effect, so if we were looking at, I don't know, this is a made up example, but if we were looking at Belleville East's grades after dress code was enforced and it increased, that might be a cause and effect. Okay, so that would be a logical comparison there. Common sense, quoted authorities, research, numbers, things of that nature. Then pathos is your emotional appeal, anything that makes you feel a certain way: happy, sad, angry. Anytime your speaker or your writer uses figurative language like similes, metaphors, that's going to be an appeal to pathos. So poets, obviously pathos. You're really thinking about how you're constructing your sentences. Last one is ethos. That is an appeal to credibility, and that's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit. So credibility consists of, one, are you a good person? Do you have good values and principles? And secondly, are you a qualified person? Do you know what you're talking about? Like if I started talking to you about science right now, I do not have credibility in that subject area. I have no idea what I would be talking about. I would just be throwing around like I don't know, I can't even think of a single science term, right? That's how bad I am at science. So I would not be a credible source. Okay, so you want to be citing relative authorities, not Wikipedia, things of that nature. This bottom one, when I say quotes accurately and fairly, that is kind of a fallacy called quoting out of context. So if I said, Sarah Jones said that this was a fantastic movie, and then I ended it there. But her real statement was, this was a fantastic movie as long as you're not looking for, a good plot and character development or people who can act. Okay. But I left that off. That would not be quoting fairly. It's quoting out of context. So again, ethics, credibility, and do you know what you're talking about? Are you a good person? Okay, this is not an appeal, but it's just something that you need to be mindful of. This is audience awareness. You have to know who you are speaking to. Obviously, you would speak to a group of 16-year-old students very differently than you would probably speak to a group of teachers or a group of senior citizens. Okay, I do have a couple of examples that I want to go over with you. So I will give you an example and then pause the video for a second, think about it, look through your notes, and determine which does this best appeal to: ethos, pathos, or logos. So if a speaker shows a photo of a person's disfigurement when arguing that people should not drink and drive, what would that best appeal to? Okay, hopefully you realize that would be pathos. Okay, next example. If a brand of drink claims to have 50% less sugar than its competitor, what would that appeal to? Consider that 50%. Hopefully you realize, aha, that is logos. Finally, your biology teacher has a degree to teach his or her subject. What would that appeal to? Right? They're qualified. That's their ethics ethos. Okay. Again, this is a skill that you absolutely need to know. So remember, there's only 3 appeals, but there's hundreds of devices. So like a metaphor, for example, is a device that we will see a lot in this subject. That metaphor will create an appeal to something else. So a lot of devices, only 3 appeals. If you get done with your notes today, make sure you start practicing those appeals with that Quizlet. I'm sorry, those devices with that Quizlet.